I don't think there's a film franchise with worse continuity than X-Men. The number of times they'd introduce a character they already did 3 films ago and forgot, and make them a fundamentally new character is absurd. I mean, where else can you go from one film to the next and see the same character be depicted as some American broker type and then Stephen Bloody Merchant? But there is actually a very simple way to fix pretty much every major continuity issue without rewriting any of it. This is not wasted potential. Welcome to Cannonball. So what is this super secret method of fixing the X-Men film continuity? Simple. Split it into 2 separate universes. It's surprising how easily you can do this, even without jumping to a new universe every time there's an issue. With just one split, you fix basically all of it. The Fox-Men franchise can be divided into 4 sub-series: the original trilogy, the First Class series, the Wolverine trilogy, and the Deadpool duology. I'm excluding Deadpool and Wolverine because we don't know how that will affect this, so just ignore that for now. With this, we have 12 films to split up, and we can actually do it in a perfectly even way. First, we split the original trilogy and Wolverine trilogy into Earth 1, and the First Class and Deadpool films into Earth 2, 6 apiece. So what exactly does this fix? As mentioned, several characters appear in multiple incarnations in what is supposed to be one continuity. I'm not talking about simple recasting like Kitty having a new actor in each of her first 3 appearances. I mean cases where their role, backstory, powers, or yes, sometimes actor, makes their appearances fundamentally incompatible. And before we start in earnest, I know Days of Future Past features several of the classic actors reprising their roles as the older versions of the characters, but just think of those as fun nods for fans of the old series that was rebooted into the new one, like these other examples with the very same actors. Just go with it, yeah? So now, I'd like to list the differences between depictions and show how dividing the franchise this way fixes it all. First, Charles and Eric are all over the place. X3 has them as friends in 1986 with Charles walking. First Class has them fall out in 1962 where Charles becomes paralysed. Now these are 2 different versions, Earth 1's remaining friends much longer than Earth 2's, and 2 different adaptations of Charles losing his legs. This also accounts for Charles claiming Eric helped him build Cerebro in X1, while Hank does it in First Class. And the way Charles says,
"I've been trying, but he seems to have found some way to shield himself from it,"
suggests the creation of Magneto's helmet is a recent development by X1, while he starts using these helmets 40 years earlier in First Class. Now it's fixed. It also fixes the random and inconsistent way the 2 age between the prequels and the originals, especially meeting Jean. Charles has 2 foster siblings in the films, Mystique and Juggernaut. Neither one shows signs of knowing him prior to joining the Brotherhood in the original films, while First Class has Mystique grow up with him, and Deadpool acknowledges Juggernaut's connection. Additionally, Juggernaut went from Vinnie Jones to a giant CGI American voiced by Ryan Reynolds. In Earth 1 they have no connection to Charles, while in Earth 2, Kane was a part of Charles and Raven's life, but for a short enough time to not come up in First Class. Any of the inconsequential differences between the openings of X1 and First Class are now a result of being different universes. Havoc is never mentioned in the original series despite being a founding X-Man and Scott's older brother in First Class. Now Havoc's absence is explained by him simply not existing on Earth 1. And the differences in circumstances for Scott's powers manifesting in Origins and Apocalypse are no longer the result of timeline alteration that realistically shouldn't affect him, but instead 2 different Scotts. Colossus has an American accent in his Daniel Cudmore incarnation, while Deadpool makes him extremely Russian, and the Deadpool version is massive. While Cudmore appears in Days of Future Past, he doesn't speak, and it's easy to explain away his smaller stature with him having less food in the post-apocalypse. So, Earth 1 Colossus is American, and Earth 2 Colossus is Russian. Similarly, Moira McTaggart went from her comic-accurate Scottish scientist form in X3 to an American CIA operative in the First Class series. This is now fixed by being 2 different versions. Bolivar Trask is even more extreme. He went from an average black man to Peter Dinklage, which is quite the leap. Officially, he's not named Bolivar in X3, just Trask, but we know who he's meant to be. X3 and Days are now on separate Earths, so these are 2 different adaptations of the comic character that deviate away from him in different ways. Emma Frost made her debut in X-Men Origins as a teenager in the 1980s and the sister of Silver Fox. 1 film later, she's an older adult in the 1960s with the Hellfire Club. Earth 1 Emma is born in the 60s and joins the X-Men in the 80s, while the Earth 2 version predates World War II from the looks of it and joins the Brotherhood in the 60s. Jubilee is a student in X1 and also a student 2 decades prior in Apocalypse. Different Earths. The Phoenix is an alternate personality for Jean Grey in X3, while the First Class films explicitly depict the Phoenix Force. Jean's parents dying in a car crash when her powers manifest in Dark Phoenix but not X3 is also now 2 different universes. Psylocke was technically in X3 as a teenager in the 2000s, while she's an adult in the 90s with different powers in Apocalypse. Both are bad adaptations of Betsy, but now they're separate bad adaptations. Toad in the first film is yellow and English. Days of Future Past has him with a natural skin tone and serving the US military in Vietnam. Different universes. Caliban's different nationalities and demeanours are also explained very easily with our method. There's a lot of nationality changes in these films for some reason. And then we have arguably the most relevant example, Yukio, who is entirely different in age, powers and personality between the Wolverine on Earth 1 and Deadpool 2 on Earth 2. As you can see, all of these weird continuity issues that come up over the course of the series are fixed by splitting the series up the way I propose. The biggest continuity issue remaining now is Sabertooth. He grew up with Logan according to Origins, but doesn't know him in X1. These are not separated by our dividing line, but it's easy enough to justify. He's a brutish monster man in X1 and a more refined individual in Origins. Just assume his secondary mutation kicked in, or he did get a Weapon X upgrade in the end, and either way, went feral to the point of forgetting his brother. And Logan's Weapon X flashbacks in X2 are more bloody and horrific than the reality in Origins because they're tinted by the trauma that took his memories. And the version from Apocalypse is now the Earth 2 version. Boom. And that fixes everything, I think. But some of you might question how Deadpool of Earth 2 can go back in time to kill his Earth 1 self. Motherfucker knows he's fictional and you're going to waste your limited time on this Earth asking how he can cross dimensions even though he was already crossing timelines in the first place? Fuck outta here. Now you might ask about the smaller entries in this franchise. I haven't seen these, so I'm going off what I've gleaned from wikis and other people. First we have New Mutants. This film apparently connects to Logan in a haphazard way, so I'll ignore that and say that magic is Russian like her brother is in Deadpool, so it's Earth 2. Legion is its own universe with its own Xavier. Likewise, The Gifted is canonically on its own branch, at best connected to Logan. And X-Men the official game is just in Earth 1. Silver Samurai is a very different character here, but he's never given his own name, so we can say it's someone else from the Wolverine version, but both exist in the same universe. The Origins game is its own thing. Maybe you can string together something consistent with that, X-Men 1.5, The Road Cut, and Once Upon a Deadpool. But now we have an actually pretty consistent pair of universes rather than one messy, horribly inconsistent one that gives Mortal Kombat a run for its money. I suppose in a way, doing this actually makes this franchise a less accurate adaptation of Marvel Comics. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended channel is Full Fat Videos, who make video essays on a lot of comic book movies, Star Wars and Doctor Who, with a big emphasis on X-Men currently.